I think we can restart this second half of our conference, where we'll be moving away from the policy domain to more about what's really happening on the ground. We'll be looking to see the role of social enterprises in the circular economy, or the maintenance economy of tomorrow, 10 to 20 years from now, bringing in our members' perspectives on where they see themselves looking down the line. But in order to set up this conversation, I'd really like to first welcome Dr. Kerli Kant Hvass, founder and advisor at Revaluate, as well as external lecturer at the Copenhagen Business School, to give her perspective on circular economy business models of the future and how social enterprises could feel about adapting to these trends. Not only does Kerli hold an industrial PhD degree from the Copenhagen Business School on business model innovation for circular economy in the context of the fashion industry, she has also been working closely with major brands through a variety of circular projects, as well as having been heavily involved in social enterprise herself back in Estonia. So Kerli, it's an absolute delight to have you with us today. Thank you for accepting our invitation to be with us, and I'll give you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here and a great honor, and congratulations on the 20th anniversary. Can you hear me well? Because I have slides, but I don't see anyone.
Perfectly.
Great. So yes, thanks, Michael, for such a nice introduction. I was asked to come and set the scene for the next panel, and shed light a little bit on what the future models could be. 15 minutes is not long enough to cover the field, and I only have some experiences, and there are lots of perspectives to cover, but I've chosen some trends and perspectives that are happening now in the industry, and in my opinion also shape the future. So a quick, as Mike already said, but my own kind of a story or journey with reuse goes back a long time. I was born and raised in Estonia. So since teenage, I've been a passionate secondhand shopper. And since the last 15 years, I've also been involved professionally with the field. I've been living the last 18 years mainly in Denmark and US. And so my experience or connection with the reuse center goes back to 2006 when I worked in secondhand store in California, really trying to understand the sector and also doing mapping, like what other business models are around in the Bay Area within reuse and secondhand. Then that brought me back to Denmark, and in 2010 I was trying to set up or start a company myself, startup company, like circular retail concept. I managed to win the first award. However, I also realized that what I wanted to do was a lot ahead of time, and I didn't want to make a little basement store. So that business plan turned into industrial PhD, where I worked with brands, charity sector, and innovators. And since 2016, I've been working as an advisor and consultant and speaker on kind of a value chain and ecosystem perspective, working with both collectors, sorters, reusers, recycling organizations. And in 2020, I started a consultancy with my partner in Denmark, where we help different organizations setting the circular business models and helping the kind of value chain collaborations. So I think a lot has already been said in the morning, the importance of the social enterprise sector. I think this graph from Nancy Bockman and colleagues illustrate very well that in the linear economy, the value is added until to the point of sale, and after that it starts decreasing. In circular economy, the value needs to be retained, and this is where social economy and social enterprises have a huge role. And if we look today, then social enterprises are a key stakeholder in the circular economy when it comes to prolonging the life of products, and that's a very important role. However, when I started doing my PhD interviews roughly 10 years ago and had interviews with different charities and nonprofits working with secondhand, a lot of the organizations at that time, they said, we are not environmental organizations, we are just selling things to get money for the social projects. And it was kind of interesting that they didn't recognize their role as a key players in this. But I think today we're in a little bit different place, and we see a lot of interesting innovations, and also these social enterprises recognizing their role in the circular economy. One thing when it comes to the maintenance or reuse economy is the consumers. Consumers are the gatekeepers, and we can also call them suppliers in circular reuse economy. And social enterprises are very close to them, because social enterprises work a lot with communities. They have charity stores, so they social enterprises hold a very important position in this, and that has to be strengthened, and consumers need to be kind of educated and empowered and engaged to do more with their things, because as you can see on the graph, it's up to the consumer if that product actually gets thrown out or will have a future life as a material, as a product. And we need to engage with consumers in this. We also know that consumers seek for convenience, guidance, and also transparency. This is a quick overview from WRAP, like where do people bring their clothes today? And we can see that textile banks and charity shops are still the main place. However, consumers are also getting more confused. What is waste and what is reusable? And they also want more transparency. They want to know what happens with my products when I bring them. Where do they go? What is waste? So we need to take a more proactive role here to actually educate them. And the collection, I mean, to give the life for the products, longer life for the products, we need to collect them. I always like to challenge the idea of charity bin. What is the future of charity bin? Is that actually part of a circular economy, or does it come across, it's like a waste bin? So there are different innovations happening on the market that are also making it more professional and more convenient for the consumer. You can see on one of the pictures is a collection house. This is by the Estonian Reuse organization, so that it's during the weekends, it's there are employees there if you have a bigger items to be donated, but throughout the week, 24 hours, you can drop off your things. Or Selfie, they can send you a bag and you can send them back the products. So how do we engage with consumers on the collection? And I think this question also becomes central with the 2025 EU requirement when we talk about textiles. How do we collect? How do we reach the consumers, and how do we collect? Because it used to be a donation bin was maybe one of the only options on the market to get rid of your used products, but now these new business models are popping up. And these business models, they combine also financial incentive, for example, the Thrift Plus in UK. So you drop off your clothes, you can earn 33% of the sales, and you can also donate the rest 33% to charity, or 66% to charity you like to support. When we look at the circular business models, and there are different conceptualizations, but these are roughly like the 5 key strategies, and 3 of them, sharing platforms, product as a service, and product life extension, are all dealing with the product's use and prolong the life. And we can also see that this is the field that's really, really growing. lots of different business models are popping up. I like this graph a lot. This is circular business ecosystem of textiles created by Finnish researchers. And the gray zone here illustrates the reuse of used clothes. And as a broad picture, this picture illustrates the ecosystem complexity and diversity. There are many different actors that are actually touching a piece of garment to get it a longer life or back, recycled back as a material. And I think if we take 10 years back, that green zone was quite simple. There were charities and maybe some for-profit vintage stores or secondhand stores. But now, as of 2021, this green zone is very colorful with lots of different business models popping up, and many are trying to capture that value of clothes. However, many of these companies, and this is just a random selection of all the new companies that have entered the market, but most of them, they all want to have the cream, the 10% good quality products. And we also heard earlier that many charities and nonprofits are struggling with lower quality products. And this is a very serious thing, because all these new business models popping up, they are all hunting for the cream to capture the reuse value. But what about the rest of 90%? Yeah, and this is a kind of a good illustration to illustrate what has happened in the market. When 2020, 2015, we had the thrift stores, charity stores, then came the boom of online marketplaces, which continues. But what we also see today is the branded re-commerce. And lots of brands are entering that field. And why do they do that? Well, there is no policy yet that pushes them. So these are mainly the brands who want to participate in circular economy. And one of them, for example, is Eileen Fisher, American brand. They have been doing the circularity and collecting the products for almost 10 years. You can see the excellent statement they have on their store windows. We'd like our clothes back, thanks very much. 10 years ago, they had to do everything themselves: collect, renew, repair, wash. They didn't have anyone to collaborate. Now companies like Trove facilitate or kind of enable this kind of service for brands. Again, a new business model. We also see that many mainstream retailers and brands are now encouraging you to buy secondhand. So the secondhand has moved to the department stores and brand houses, collaborating with companies such as ThredUp. And even Selfridges, they have the Project Earth, where they encourage consumers to consume more sustainably. They have a pop-up store together with Oxfam, but they also offer rent, they offer repair, renew, refill, several other activities. So that shows that the circular economy is slowly becoming, squeezing itself into the first-hand retail. And opportunities in repair and renewal. Circular economy requires lots of hands, and these hands need to be found. So we can't prolong the life of products without actually taking the hands to, for example, remove the stains or take the pilling off from a sweater or repair a product. And there is also an opportunity here for the social enterprises. For example, a company such as the Renewal Workshop that offers brand service for all the returns that cannot be sold, so they will be renewed, rebranded, and then resold again. This is a company that offers a service for brands. However, they have also spoken that this renewal part is a place where actually they might need to, and they would like to collaborate also with social enterprises and subsidize labor work. And all these re-commerce, the reuse business models that are popping up, they are enabled by data and technology. I'm not going to go in detail in this, but it allows to create data based professionalizing, like how they handle the products, also measure the performance and provide a better customer experience. There are also companies that are developing digital passports for products. So if a product is produced, then a digital passport is produced in parallel, which is put into the product as a RFID thread or another technology. And that allows to collect data along the value chain. So this is, for example, Eon, a California-based company that that aims to facilitate the reuse and re-commerce sector. So basically the product, you can see when it was resold, how many times it has been rented. So the product has a storyline. The same from similar idea from Germany. I can see I'm running out of time a little bit, so that's why I go fast. Or K3, image donated goods app. So this is a UK-based company that works with, that has developed a donation app for charities that helps to sort, price, and track. So because the sorting process and how do you price a product within a charity context has always been questioned, like how do we value that product? So this app allows to remove the subjectivity and helps to standardize, which is again making the donation and sorting and pricing process more efficient. And then we have collaborations. So as was already mentioned earlier in the panel by the panelists, that we have to remove away from silo thinking, and we need to think system. We need to think ecosystem and collaboration. Circular economy cannot be done in isolation, only through collaborations. This is an interesting example, Belgium partnership with mission-driven nonprofit World Missy Help. Be the Fiber, designer of circular products, and Volcat. So the products that are collected by the charity are mechanically recycled into new products and branded by the Be the Fiber. Because getting the recycled fibers back in the loop is a challenge. These companies are struggling to compete with virgin fibers. So we also need to find collaboration models that support the uptake of recycled fibers. This is my almost last slide, so I'm slowly speeding up. Another good initiative that Revaluate and myself we are part of is a pilot project in Copenhagen, where we are developing and testing a collaboration model where products collected in municipality recycling bins are turned to sorter. Together with Salvation Army Danish office, we sort the reusable quality out to keep the local reuse focus. And the rest goes to reuse recycling company Volcat, the Dutch company with production in Morocco. And the products that are not reusable anymore are recycled into new fabrics. And through Paga, who is the workwear company and the supplier to Copenhagen City, we are developing products that the municipality can procure as public procurement. So we have lots of different elements here, but the focus on the social enterprise, Salvation Army is here to really not to collect and then export all the products out, which is very often the case with charities and non-profit organizations. we are trying to, which is often the case when collected products are not resold in local markets. Charities, they usually take the good quality out, and this is also the point here. And we're trying to see also how through different kind of resale business models, this fraction can be increased. So a quick recap. There are new circular reuse business models popping up. Is that a threat or opportunity for a social sector? I would say absolutely an opportunity, but social enterprises also need to come out of the comfort zone and see the role broader than just socially driven organizations. We need convenient, transparent, and innovative collection and retail models. Hunt for the cream by many is continuing. So it's also important to develop collaborations with the recycling companies to find solution for the non-wearable and non-cream sections of the used products. Consumer engagement and advocacy for sustainable consumption, that role has to be taken seriously. We need to adopt data management and technologies to mainstream and professionalize the sector and build capacity in circular skills. Innovative ecosystem collaboration is a key. And I agree with the previous panelists that policy and circular taxes are a crucial enabler here. Thank you so much, and apologies I went over a few minutes.
Thanks a lot, Kerli. Thanks so much. It was a really rich presentation. I hope we will be able to share the slides because people are really reacting to them with a lot of interest. So also hello from my side. I'm Jana. I'm a colleague of from REUSE. I will be guiding you through the second part of this event, which will be a panel with those working on the ground. We have been talking about social enterprise the whole day, but now we will actually talk to the social enterprises themselves and hear their experience from the ground. So again, thanks a lot, Kerli, for provoking some of the questions that we need to be thinking about when we are talking about how do the social enterprises fit into the circular future, and also taking into account that 20 years ago, this sector just looked completely different. There were different actors, where now we spoke a lot about how politically circular economy is really getting the ground, and that is followed by many more actors entering this field. And also economically, the market is changing, the expectation from consumers is changing. So also the social enterprises, as flexible as they are by nature, they need to look into how to stay relevant in the circular economy. Of course, the social services are still very much needed, and they probably will be needed also in many years. But with the focus on the environmental activities, how do we stay relevant and show our value? So for this part, I'm very happy to introduce you the second panel, which consists of 4 REUSE members from different countries who will be sharing their experience. We have 2 parts of this panel. One is where we will be sharing, or our members will be sharing, some interesting partnerships they're pursuing, because we believe that also that is the way to stay relevant and stay, to just highlighting the links between different public and private actors and the social enterprises. And in the second part, we'll be also taking a look into the future and sharing some thoughts on where do our members think that is the future of social enterprise in the circular economy. Just very, very quickly, some housekeeping comments. So you can use the chat functions for any comments, as you're doing now, and it's amazing to see so much engagement. If you want to pose questions to the panelists, but also to Kerli, who will be with us, please use the Q&A box preferably, because it helps us to track the questions, and also you can vote on the questions and comment on the questions. So it's a very useful tool. And I will make a little change to the setup, because our first panelist unfortunately has to leave very early. So I will ask her to address both of the parts at the same time. And so I will invite first Francine Bea from Ressource from Belgium. And so the question is, first, you're in the car, that's a great dedication. So first, if you can share the partnerships, interesting partnerships that you're having, and if you have any thoughts on the future of social enterprise, that would be great. And in the meantime, I will share your slide that you sent me.
Thank you, Jana. First of all, thank you, RREUSE, for the invitation. Sorry for the weird setup. I'm in my car. So yeah, I'm going to begin. So I'm a policy officer at the Belgian network of social and circular enterprises. We we have plus 60 members in this network who that treat different kind of items. We have textiles, furnitures, we books, and we basically gather activities. I mean, they basically organize activities around reuse, but also training of underqualified people. So in terms of example, where even the members have both work with the public and the private sector. First of all, with the public partnership, I mean, Belgium is a heavily institutionalized country, so it's quite frequent to have partnership with the public sector. And first example that I want to put forward is the fact that training centers are partners of certain services or certain public services, meaning that if one person who is underqualified go to a public aid service and he's looking for a certain kind of training course, he can go to one of our members. So this is the first example. As a second example for the public partnership is the fact that the public sector in fact subsidized the reuse activities. So if you would say comply to a certain list of requirements, you can ask afterwards for a subsidy. I mean, you don't have to ask, you receive subsidies from the government. For the private partnership, we have one partnership that is with a distribution group who is in contact with our members to try and supply their teams with technicians, and these technicians are trained in in the facilities of our members. So this is the kind of partnership that we are trying, in fact, to develop and try and partner with other private actors. And we have also another example of partnership where a private actor and a social member join forces, to answer to some tender. And for example, it's some members are active in the construction materials, so they reuse construction materials, and so they go to building sites and collect the materials that is going to be reused, while the demolition company, who is a partner, is going to deal with the rest of the demolition. So yeah, this is one kind of private partnership too. In terms of vision and where do we see the sector, the social enterprises in 20 years from now? Well, it's a kind of it's really a hope from us. So we hope that the model, the values that are the base of our sector is going to be more mainstreamed, and it's not going to be an alternative like it is the case today. So we hope that the private actors are going to be more converted by the values of the social sectors, that their activities are going to be dedicated to contribute to the citizens' welfare. And we hope that private actors are going to be, going to work at a local scale. So yes, this is the vision. I mean, it's more a wishful thinking than a vision, I would say. But hopefully, this is the path. This is where we are going to be in 20 years. And in terms of role that the reuse actors are going to have, well, we think the reuse actors are leaders in innovation and also in social innovation. So hopefully we are going to continue being solutions provider to different kinds of actors. So for example, solution provider to the public institutions, because we organize activities, we execute activities that have a positive impact and positive externalities for the citizen. Solution provider to the consumers, because we put to the market products that are highly with a high social value and a high environmental value. And also a solution provider to the companies, where we would see a more systematic collaboration between the private sector and the social economy sector. And we see the role of the reuse actor as more subcontractor or service provider for activities for activities that are organized by the private sector. So yeah, we will see a greater, I would say, fusion between the activities organized by the private sector and the activities organized by the social economy sector. And lastly, just to finish, hopefully I'm still on time. What is the crucial factor that is needed for the future role of the reuse actor? Well, we have identified two factors, in fact. The one is professionalization. This is something that we are working actually now, because we have just created a new occupation that professionalizes the activities of collecting, sorting, and treating waste, and treating them into becoming, resources. And the fact of scaling up. Right now, our membership, the majority of our members are quite small actors that are really in touch with the local environment. And I think that in the future, it would be necessary to have bigger actors in order to offer a greater and more quality in their services. And right now, we not a lot of our members have the resources, have the capacity to scale up, but it is something that we need to address in the near future. Voilà. Thank you for listening.
Thanks a lot, Nasreen, and for your dedication. I hope you will make it to your meeting in time, and if you can, please come back to us later on. But thanks so much for your thoughts for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Bye. Thank you.
And then we will carry on as planned. So we have 3 more speakers, and we will keep the structure that we planned, that each of the speakers will present their partnership example, and then we will have a little discussion on the future outlook. So the next speaker, I would like to invite Iris from Lavaliers and from Trema to introduce herself and your partnership. Iris, are you with us? Yes.
Yes.
Hello,
Hi,
welcome.
everyone. Thank you for having me. Are you hearing me well? Because my internet connection is a little bit bad, so
For me, it's fine. Yeah.
okay, perfect. So I'm Iris from Lavaliers. Lavaliers is a French social enterprise created in 2016. We have many activities. We are a marketplace on which 160 social enterprises are selling products, reused products. We also have 2 logistic platforms that are employing 20 approximately employees on a work integration program. We have also a free school, and we have a foundation to help social enterprises to deal with their digital transition, was like the context. So on all of these activities, we have been building strong partnerships with both private and public companies, entities over the years. Lately, with the anti-waste laws that have been voted in France, on top of the trends that we've been talking about since the beginning of this conference. We have been solicited a lot by private companies that want us to work with them on their shift towards a more circular economy. So it's been quite interesting and quite challenging for us to know how to interact with these private companies, because we have to be really careful with their intentions, but because sometimes they're just trying to use this for greenwashing purposes, and we don't want to allow them to do that, but we want to help them to move in a more sustainable system. So, for example, we are trying to work with some companies that want us to repair their products. So it's a company that sells armchairs for offices, and they want us to repair their products. So they're gonna teach us how to repair the product. They're going to give us access to the different parts that we need to repair the products, and so their goal is to show their customers that their product can be repaired, and also to work with us so we can create more work integration program. So this is one kind of partnership. We are always trying to build a stronger ecosystem for the social enterprises that we work with, and also for the companies that we work with. Like we try to interact a lot because we think that we can be stronger together, have a stronger voice. So we really believe in mutualization, and we are trying to find ways to have the same system with private company, because as for now, we were first having partnership with social enterprises or public entities. I don't know if it's
okay, great. Thanks a lot, Iris. Yeah, it's also very thematic to hear that in France, following the waste or anti-waste law, as we call it, there was more interest from the private sector in collaborations. So thank you very much for the moment, and we will come back to you in the next part. And now I will invite the third speaker, which is Robert van Bausum from the Kringloper in the Netherlands.
Hi, good afternoon.
Also share your images.
Thanks. Well, I'm Robert, and we have a small company in the south of Holland, and we run some thrift shops, some second-hand shops, but we also do partnerships with various companies. And I'm going to talk about two examples. One is with the BSH group. It's the Bosch Siemens group, and they're well known for their electric equipment. They deliver washing machines, dishwashers, and so forth. And we started working together as a refurbishment program to collect their second-hand goods or their return logistics and then repair them. As we were repairing them, we found out that we could repair them to quite a high level. And now we are looking to start up a premium refurbishment program, which we refurbish their appliances. And from the BSH group, they give 2 years warranty to the customers who buy them. That's a fabric warranty. And this is a gap I've been aiming at for quite a long time in partnering up with private companies, because in the social economy, you see a lot of companies just selling or reselling or just checking goods, and that's it. But I think with partnering up with other companies, you have to deliver some value. You have to add some value in the supply chain. And when you work together with a company like BSH, you can add value by repairing their goods to such a high standard that you can deliver back some data which they wouldn't have normally. Because normally when they sell their machines new, then the machine is gone and they don't see the equipment back. But now the equipment comes to us and we can tell them by each type what went wrong with the machines and why people returned them. So that data enables the BSH group to develop better machines because they know more what's going wrong with them. So that's really interesting point of view in the circular economy, is to add value to the company you're working with. So that's one example. The other example is the chance in return logistics. Every company delivers goods to the customers, and a lot of times the old goods are taken back by the company who's delivering the new goods. So by example, furniture. There in the south of Holland, there's a really big retailer in furbishes, and they deliver couches and closets, stuff like that, and they take away the old stuff. But that is quite voluminous. So they are driving around with new stuff and with old stuff in their trucks. And so we said to them, well, why could we not collect these goods, these furnitures and these chairs, these tables, and we resell them in our shops, and you don't have to collect these. And so you add value to that company by saving them space and transport. We started with one company, and now we have about, I think, 6 or 7 companies which we are riding for each day, collecting goods they would normally collect. So these are 2, well, really good examples of partnering up with other companies.
Thanks a lot, Robert, as well. Yeah, I would like to talk about this value that we add to the value chain a bit more later, also in the future outlook. So thanks for raising it.
No
and now I'll invite the last panelist, which is Michael Cook from Circular Communities Scotland. I will also share your image, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, and I'll say good morning because it's still morning in Scotland. We've got 45 minutes before it's afternoon. So yeah, you may have known of us by our previous name, which was CRNS, but we're Circular Communities Scotland now, and we're a membership organisation for charities and social enterprises doing reuse, repair, recycling, working in the circular economy here in Scotland. And our role is two-way: support the sector, run events for them, very much like REUSE do for us across Europe, and also represent the sector in Scottish policy context. I was asked to give one photo summarizing sort of our work, and I couldn't, so I cheated and gave 6. But maybe the one in the middle, our logo, our new logo, is fresh in our minds because we've only had this for a month. The idea of our organization, a bit like REUSE, is all the members coming together and forming something more than the parts. So obviously in this case, the circle of our logo, the dots coming together, that's how we think of our work. And these are just some of our members all over Scotland doing different things in terms of reuse. In terms of one key partnership for us, I will highlight is for about 5 years now, we've been running a reuse consortium. And this is a partnership between, on the one side, our members, and on the other side, local authorities or municipalities, as you may know them in Europe. And we have a place on a national procurement framework, and we as the lead organization have signed the contract for that to provide not new furniture but reused furniture and white goods, and the actual provision of the goods is done by our individual members. So it's a way of making it possible for a fairly small local social enterprise to be part of a national framework agreement. And it has traded nearly £2 million since it was set up. And we are seeing more local authorities coming on to purchase from the consortium. I mean, even just today, there's a story in the paper about here in Scotland about the aftermath of COP26 and how all the furniture which was given by IKEA for COP26 is going into warehouses and is expected to sit there for months and months and months. And you know, the idea that even when we run a global climate conference, we still haven't really thought about and planned how we do reuse. So there's still a long way to go, and we're just trying to, through the reuse consortium, make it more normal to be thinking about reuse and how you do reuse. So that's an example of a partnership here. Back to you, Jana.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Thanks to the whole panel for the first part. Just to wrap up, I think it was nice that you raised both public and private partnerships to show the links that social enterprises are making. The public authorities may seem as a more natural partner because of the shared interest in the local communities and the well-being of citizens, etc. And there we heard the example of Michael of REUSE Consortium that delivers secondhand goods to clients on the welfare program, or we heard about the training done by RREUSE in Belgium, but also increasingly the private cooperations, of course, are of big relevance, as we've discussed a lot today, because the circular economy is changing very rapidly. So we could get a snapshot of the different services that social enterprise can provide, like a collection, repair, helping with the reverse logistics, etc. And also we heard how the policy comes in place and how it can really enable and give more stimulus for these corporations. One thing which also was mentioned, and I think we need to keep that in mind, is that in any partnerships there needs to be a mutual comfort for both the partners, and the greenwashing issue was mentioned, which also is something what is looked at by the European Commission. And the fact that in any partnerships, it takes time for the parties to get trust and understanding of what they will be doing, and make sure that it's a really worthwhile and a true action, both social and circular. So thanks a lot for this first part, and now we'll be taking a look into the future a little bit, and I would like to ask each of you the question which was asked many times today, but where do you see our sector in 5, 10, 20 years? How do you think we will fit in the future society, the hopefully circular economy? Maybe you can be very futuristic or very down to the ground, but don't feel shy to have any thought-provoking ideas or very hopeful ideas. And I will first invite Iris, because unfortunately Francine is not with us, but she already gave us some thoughts. So Iris, you can take the floor.
Yes, thank you. It's difficult to see in 20 years. I'm only 28, so it's like big. But what I can say is that I think our role is to inspire entrepreneurs and new business models. We are I speak for Lavaliers, but we are thinking of ourselves as a laboratory for social innovation. We are trying some new business models, and then we are trying to teach it to other social enterprises so that they can develop them. And when working together, we can develop it on another scale. So we are trying to build an ecosystem and showing that we can do things differently, that we can have both social and environmental impact, but not following the rules that the private sectors have imposed since a long time now. As Matthias said, I think it's a new type of economy. We are trying to do maintenance economy. I really like this this way of talking about the economy. I think we have a great responsibility working together with all other social enterprises and public entities and private entities to like help people move in a good way, help them to be more sustainable, work in a more circular way, do more reuse and recycle, but mostly reuse. And yeah, I'm not sure that's quite, but yeah, I think that's where I see ourselves in 20 years. It's kind of blurry.
Right.
Sorry.
Thanks a lot, Iris. Yeah, inspiration and how you call it, the incubator of ideas. Maybe I think that's a really nice, nice vision. Thanks a lot. Next, I will invite Robert.
Yes. Well, where will the social enterprises stand in the circular economy in 20 years? I view that from our view as a social enterprise, and we see the shift now from like a niche market to more standard market. So there's growing awareness, and which is good, but I think the growing awareness leads to growing public expectations. So social enterprises will need to professionalize to meet these expectations. And I'm talking about the quality of goods, the quality people might expect from social enterprises, but also the customer journey, which means when something goes wrong, how do you deal with that? And how shops are laid down, just imply that the customer view. Branding and services and products will offer, I think, a better proposition in streamlining the supply chain through our social enterprises. So when you have the customer in mind, and you can team up with private companies, and you can fill in a demand, but the demand has to be reached to customer expectations. So there's a job ahead of us for the social enterprises to professionalize. In the Netherlands, we see a rapid growth in social enterprises, and they're getting professionalized pretty quick, but the competition also professionalizes. For example, the recycling business, when we started with our premium refurbishment program, we acquired the Wheelerback certification, which states that we as a social enterprise can take apart and dismantle electric equipment. which is pretty good. And when we started out 7 years ago, we sold our dismantled equipment in about 18 to 25 streams, which are chips and motherboards, stuff like that. Now we do over 100, and we test them. And but other companies who recycle are reaching even more streams. So when you want to professionalize, you got to be on top of your game. And I think you can do it all. So when you want to do something with electrics, you got to be good. And I think this is the step a lot of companies are going to take in the next 20 years, which is really exciting. And so the private companies, they need us now, but we can keep them needing us. And a lot of it helps. The Waste Frame Directive helps, which is implemented, I think it was May 2019, which indicates what is indicated as reusable or raw material and not as a waste. And I think in social craft centers, which are developed in Holland right now, you have a great combination of education and social cohesion, reuse and secondhand, and you can match and these disciplines all together and grow from there. So my outlook to the future is pretty positive. That's about it.
Thanks a lot, Robert. Also, you mentioned the circular craft centers. If you could send a link through the chat, I think that would be really interesting for the participants.
Yes.
Which is a public funded initiative, if I'm not mistaken, by the Dutch government.
Yeah, correct.
Thanks a lot. And then I will invite Michael from Scotland. Yes.
Hello again. What a great question, the future. And I think I have to adopt a degree of humility when answering a question like this, particularly after a global pandemic. I mean, if you had run this conference 2 years ago and said, what do you think the next 2 years will involve? I think we would have all got that question wrong. So I'm going to answer it more a bit like Robert did, I think, from what I think the future we need to aim for, the future we need to create. The future doesn't just happen to you. Sometimes pandemics happen, things like that, but often you choose a journey and a direction to go, and that creates the future for yourself, for a degree, for your organization that you lead. And I think I applaud REUSE for putting the future on the context here, because I think it would be very easy just to be in a COVID-19 mindset and in a survive rather than a thrive. And we need to build back better. We need to take the best from lockdown and the learnings that we have, but we also need to ultimately in the coming months move beyond it to create the future we need to see. So my theme is very similar to Robert's. I'll maybe provoke your thoughts in a slightly different way. The words I wrote down were professionalism, were customer service, were digitalization, and storytelling, communicating our impact. And in a way, these are all different things, but in a way, they are all the same thing. I think if you are running a reuse organization, we're not just selling furniture, we're not just selling clothes, we're also doing something about climate, and we're doing something about social deprivation. And I'm sure we all on the call understand this. A very interesting thought from the keynote before was that the public is both our customer and our supplier. They are critical in a circular economy at both sides. They give us the goods that we would then repair and reuse, but they also buy them. And in this context, I think good enough is not good enough anymore. We need to, I will share a brief example from a different world that we can all understand, a really challenging story from the story of Lego, the toy manufacturer that make the children's building bricks. There's a story told that when they became the #1 toy in the world, their CEO got the staff together And he said, our competitor is no longer all the toy manufacturers. Our competitor is Sony PlayStation and Microsoft Xbox. And in that context, they're not the #1 in the world. Our market, children, are spending their time on computers, and we've got a long way to go to winning them back. And he just reset their expectation. And interesting, since then, they've made movies, they've made computer games, and have grown even more popular. Who do we see as our competitor? Is it the reuse shop down the road, or is it Amazon? Is it our fellow charity shop across town, or is it you know, the big companies who are offering click and collect and are researching drone deliveries and all these things? Now, I know we don't have the money to compete with them in terms of their logistics, for example, but there is something they can't compete with us on. And that is the story that we tell in terms of how we benefit the environment and how we benefit the social outcomes of our work. And I think we need to far better communicate that in a way that when people buy from us, they understand they're not just buying a t-shirt, but they're actually saving you know, 7-8 kilograms of carbon. When they're buying a washing machine reuse, it's not just because they can't afford new, it's because it's also helping create jobs, helping overcome economic disadvantage, and helping again to save the planet. We talk about 4 Ps at Circular Communities Scotland: care for planet, care for people, taking care of the pounds, and care for place, the local economy. And really, social enterprise has a unique advantage. Our unique selling point, is that we can balance these 4 Ps in a way that major corporations never can. They are loyal to 1 P, which is profit, which is pounds, and they have to maximize shareholder values. But social enterprises, by their very definition, I would call them maybe social and environmental enterprises. They trade, they do make trade money and a business, but they also balance the social and the environmental, the people and the planet, and from my 4 Ps. And I think this is the consumer is crying out for that in this day and age. We just need to tell that story a lot better than we have been. I think we need to have it on our walls in our shops. We need to have it on our receipts that we give people, how much carbon they've saved. We need to talk about it when we're delivering products, just so it becomes more normative and more mainstream. So who's your competitor? How are you looking to move online and be digital? Not as instead of face-to-face and deliveries, we'll always need that, but to augment it. It's not something we can ignore anymore. The pandemic has taught us that. How do you give great customer service? How do you think about communicating the extra benefits of what you do, the social and environmental, as a core part of your existence? How professional are you? How are you training your staff? And how do you tell the story of products, but more than products? How do you tell the story of avoiding waste, of both wasted materials and helping the environment, but also wasted lives and helping overcome employment and economic disadvantage? These, to me, is what will help our sector be in a strong place in 20 years' time, and indeed a lot of what we think of as a different way of doing things to become more the mainstream. Back to you, Jana.
Many thanks, Michael. There are many very interesting things that were said, and I would like to just connect them very quickly. I think the profession, I can't pronounce it, professionalization, I will do it very quickly, is something what is really coming up again and again. And I think it's very clear, as you were saying, that we have a story to tell, which is very compelling. And it's very valuable. We've been building the reputation for decades, and the impact is there without a discussion. We need to communicate it better, but also we need to maybe take a look in the mirror and see how do we professionalize and really provide a good experience to the consumers, and not only rely on that consumers will decide based on their values or our impact. Also, I would like to pick up on the point on adding value to different value chains, and through the partnerships with the private sector, for example. Maybe also we could look at it differently, that we should not be just an added value to something what is not good in the first place, but really what we are also doing is trying to push for a better system, better policy framework, better economy, where we are not just an added value, but we are the core of it, and yeah, operating on a much different grounds. But I would maybe, I don't see in the chat, if I haven't missed it, I was looking out for questions for the panelists. There was one point actually from someone who was asking if we shouldn't call it sustainable enterprises, which also was mentioned now by Michael. So I think that's quite a nice thought to share. I think there are many comments, which is amazing in the chat. Also, there is a discussion about standards and preparing for reuse, which I recommend to read if this is your field. I think I would maybe like to ask the panel a bigger questions going back to the professionalization. What do you think are the biggest challenges for this? Is it funding? Is it your staff? Is it because secondhand is so specific and you're operating with items that are all of them are different and so on? So could you reflect a bit more on that? What do we need then to do that, and or what is the problem? Maybe I can take the opposite direction now from Michael, because you're still on.
All of that, of course, but I think behavior change, culture. I mean, we live inside they say don't ask a fish what it's like to be wet. You can't see it different. And we live in a culture which says buying new is what we value, and the stuff we have is what we value. So there's obviously a paradigm shift that needs to happen, but we need to communicate not just the cost of the price of a product, but the cost, and the cost to planet, and the cost to people in the supply chain. And so I think communicating the positive, which is why, you know, telling the story of the benefits of reuse, I think it is happening. I think you see things happening about it. There's been an exciting announcement in my home country here of Scotland around repair cafes and sharing libraries. And I think these are sort of gateways to mainstream reuse. I think there are people out there who are doing behaviors that are good for the environment without realizing it. And we need to start changing the dialogue so that it is actually understood that these behaviors are a responsible thing. I mean, at the moment, you think of concepts like electric car or not flying or by renewable energy. These concepts have much greater traction than reuse in terms of the environmental impact. And I think it's just, you know, even the language we use, secondhand is second best, you know, rather than, you know, thinking about the environmental responsibility. I love the word sustainable, by the way. I think sustainable, it talks about planet, it talks about people, and it talks about money. I mean, you could have sustainability from any environmental, social, or economic perspective. And I think, you know, helping people understand that reuse helps with all three of those, I think is how we will win the battle, if we can get that concept understood in the mainstream.
Great, thanks a lot, Michael. Robert, would you like to share any thoughts on the professionalization?
Yes, I would. And nice words, Michael. Thanks a lot. I think you said it quite well. There are there are a lot of opportunities for the reuse and the sustainable sector, but telling the story, I think, is really important. But also joining together and investing together. So, for example, the BHH collaboration we have with appliances, we offer place for the employees of BHH to work at our company. The older repair guys, they sometimes cannot go on the road. They are ill or just can work partial hours. They can work at our place and educate our people. We have people distances from the labor market who are getting trained by us, but also by the people from the companies we work with. So there's a lot of sharing knowledge. A lot of the people we train can later on start working for one of the companies we work together with, because when they work for a certain amount of time only on the BHH equipment, they get an expert level of knowledge about that type of equipment. So there's a big shortage now on the labor market. People cannot find enough employees. The people we train have a longer training period, but they get trained to be an expert. And I think that's a gap we now miss in a lot of social companies. Training to move on, training to go work somewhere else and partner up with the people you already know. So I think that's, and this is just a small example, but it works for a lot of areas, I think.
Great, thanks, Robert. Yeah, thanks for mentioning the skills and the skill gap, which is also something what is a great opportunity for social enterprises to be partner in this training and creation of the skills for the future circular economy. Iris, would you like to share some comments?
Just quickly to, I think there is something about professionalization that is really important, and we are moving towards professionalization for most social enterprises, I think, trying to communicate better, but we have to have the means to do that, and we have to have trainings, and we have to change also the way we are working sometimes, because I mean, we have to be more professionalized, but also not losing our values, and staying social enterprises and doing things differently, but in a more professional way. So yeah, I think we have to have more trainings and also more funds, and it's still difficult for social enterprises to raise money to change the system, and we have no comparable funds compared to Amazon or other big companies. And so we can do things in a more professional way, but we have to have help from others and working with private companies, and it can sometimes help, but we still have to stay the same as we are. Don't know if that's clear. Sorry, my English is a little bit rusty. It's difficult to find my words. I try.
No, it's great. I think we all understand. Indeed, also it goes with the point on scaling up. How do we scale up? Since social enterprises are by default someone very locally rooted. So thanks for this point. And I would also like to engage Kerli, if you're here with us, if you would like to share any comments on this point, or anything that you have heard from the panelists on the challenges of getting more professional, sharing impact, sharing our values, etc.
Yes, I think it's the panel discussion here really like illustrates what are the challenges. And I mean, professionalizing, this is not something that happens overnight. It's a long path. And so yeah, I think there was also the question about like social enterprises or sustainable enterprises, and I think from my own work I've seen that sometimes the social enterprises, they don't take the environmental element so strongly. So maybe that building like a strategy around the triple bottom line values would help to empower these organizations. And of course the funding, I think in the chat there was a comment about the funding, that these opportunities are not the same as they are for the startups. And this is true, but I also see that I mean, many social enterprises who do want to innovate, they do find the fundings as well, because there is lots of public funding available and also public-private partnerships. So I am more in my work, I've met like maybe the mentality of sitting too much of a comfort zone as this is what we do here. but maybe not being brave enough to embrace what are the opportunities that the circular economy can bring, and what are the threats actually as well.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think it's also needs to be said that it is often sometimes, as you say, outside of the comfort zone of the enterprises which have been doing things in certain way for many years, and now things are changing rapidly, and they somehow need to, yeah, change maybe the ways of working and embracing the digital and other technologies, and which is also something in our minds, that this is not only about funding, but also about wanting to change maybe, and see that as an opportunity. So are there, thanks a lot, Kerli. Are there, I can't see any questions in the box or in the chat. I hope I haven't neglected anything. If yes, then please let me know in one of the chatting chat places. We still have a few minutes before we will have the closing remarks. So I think I can just ask the panelists if you would like to share some final words of any thoughts that you've had during this event overall, or the second part. I am happy to give you the floor. If not, you also don't have to, but yeah, any final comments would be welcome. You still have maybe 5 minutes for this part. Any volunteers? Yes.
I think there is a question just come in the chat. You might want to look at, Jana, directed at two of my fellow panel, but I'll give one final thought. I think we know that when people change their behaviors, they do it for a wide range of motivations. And you have people who have been doing the right thing for the environment because they've cared passionately about it for many years. You have other people that won't do it until it's made illegal not to, and even then might not. And in between, you have, you know, the 90% of people who are the mainstream majority, who will do it because it becomes easy, it becomes convenient, and it becomes worth their while. And I think in that mainstream space, we have to move from to make reuse easy, to make it convenient, and to make it really then get the value of it, not just money, but also understand they're doing something good for the environment, for people. So I think that's why I think the storytelling is part of it, and that's why I think digitization and professionalization is part of it, is to make it much more convenient for people to do the right thing. And maybe obviously policymakers have a role to make it harder to do the wrong thing. And if we can make it easier to do the right thing, harder to do the wrong thing, then behavior change will happen.
Great, many thanks, Michael. I found a question which is directed to Kerli and to Robert. So also if you want to respond to that, how do small professionalized reuse companies are going to compete with big group companies working in recycling and collecting raw materials? If you want to share any thoughts there.
I did answer in writing as well, but I mean, these companies, they need to also define what they are good at, and doing that one thing they are good at, and the rest they can't figure out. They have to build collaborations, and if they are too small to work with the recyclers, then they need to collaborate with the similar organizations to collect the volume. So the collaboration, I would say, and building partnerships is the key. And just a quick other point, like I think 10 years ago, some senior charity professional told me that in the future, if the reuse organizations, if they're not professional handling used textiles, they would be out of the game. So unless they develop the skills and capacity and adopt technologies and innovation, or they're gonna be cut out of the game. And I think we we already see that with some organizations, and even one of the examples I had in the slides, that you can donate your clothes not directly to the charity, but the charity can earn money from that. So the question is, like, in circular economy, we need organizations handling products who have expertise in handling these products. And if they are not professional, then they should also define, like, okay, what is our role here? Because collecting a lots of volumes of textiles and not having the capacity or partnerships in place to actually handle them, especially the non-wearable textiles, then this can be a problem. Collecting them and sending them to landfill, for example. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerli. Robert?
Yeah, I completely agree with Kerli, and I want to add one thing. I think it's important for small companies to know where they stand in the supply chain. So you have the manufacturing and the reselling, and then eventually you get to the reuse point. But when it's considered electrics or textiles, doesn't matter. In the last stage of life with, for example, textiles, you know you cannot recycle them yourself, but you can collect, or you can collect them in commission together with other small enterprises, and then as a whole you can resell and reuse those materials, or pass on to a company you choose to work with, and create a loop together with similar enterprises. So cooperation is key when you're small. You cannot do everything yourself. It's really expensive to professionalize, and you get lost in the woods when you want to do like 6 or 7 different things to professionalize on. It's just not going to happen. So know your place and choose which way you want to participate, and work together, and not just by yourself. And that's something, a shift you see happening right now, but 10 years ago they were all just individual companies, and I think the cooperation is key to the future.
Thank you so much, Robert. Indeed, this also shows the importance of networks of our national and regional members that are helping small enterprises to get better, but also join forces. And also maybe Lavaliers, I feel like, is a good example of how cooperation allowed even the smaller members to participate in online commerce. Iris, would you like to have some final comments?
Yeah, I think I had 2 main points. Lavaliers is a good, I think, cooperation example, because we in our governance, in the way we do things, we really work. We won't exist without the other social enterprises we are working with. And also, I think something about professionalization that I didn't say, and I think it's really, really important, is about, and I saw it in the chat, about how we give diplomas to workers so they can look more professional when they enter the work market, the classic work market. And that's why we open a school. And I think it's really, really important for all the social enterprises to develop this kind of frameworks where we train people, and then we give them certification and diplomas so they can show to the work market that they have really professional experience already. And yeah, something like that. And
yes, thanks, Iris. That's a really good point. Also, feel free to, if you have any links to your training program, feel free to share it, because indeed you have a separate branch on training in e-commerce to also deliver the skills next to the e-commerce shop. So I think something very relevant. I will share in the chat, because Francine is not with us anymore. I will share the training program of RREUSE, which you mentioned, in case that would be of interest. just reacting to your point. And I would like to thank very, very much to all the panelists and also to Kerli for her stimulating presentation. And indeed, it has been a great discussion. I'm really happy that we were here today to celebrate our 20 years. And I will give the word to our president, to Matthias, who we've met in the morning, and he will have some closing remarks. Thanks again to all of you.
Okay, thank you very much, all of you. I think what is missing during all these discussions in the climate debate, in the circular economy debate, even in the Corona debate, and all the debates going on now, is a vision. And I think that in a real circular, socially just and climate neutral economy, there will be no unemployment anymore, because every hand and every mind is badly needed and valued. And so actually there will be no more social enterprises in such a utopian society, and reuse will be a mainstream economy. And so I think this is a vision in the future where we should move to. And moving forward into this direction is quite complex. And every single one of you in the audience and the panelists, the speakers, the REUSE staff, and all the other people out there, every one of them is contributing to that move a little bit. And I would like to share a picture of this moving forward. Is like if you would want to move forward a rope that is lying in front of you in this form, and you have only a stick to move the rope. So you can push the rope a little bit, but then the rope will go like this, but you have to move it forward like this. So either you push it a little bit on all the different points of the rope, but then it will take years, decades to move the rope forward. And the difference is if you do that in cooperation with many other people who also have these sticks, and every one of them has a position in front of this rope and moving the rope a little bit forward, and we are all doing that simultaneously, and then the rope will move forward quite quickly. And this is what we are doing now, and this is called a movement. And I'm really grateful to be part of this movement, and that you are part of this movement. And I say thank you for all this for your contributions in this moving forward toward this vision, and a special thank you to all the panelists and speakers today who gave us inspiration in this moving forward. And a very, very special thank you to three fantastic young women making possible this conference. You saw only two of them. You saw Jana and you saw Julia, and you did not see Kerli, but I want to thank all three of them, Kerli, Jana, and Julia, that you made this conference possible. And a big thank you, big bravo to this fine work. And yeah, so with that, I would like to close the conference, and hope that every one of you took home a little bit of inspiration to move the rope a little bit more forward to a future where reuse is mainstream and social economy isn't needed, because there is everyone has a job and is valued. Thank you very much.